Hello everybody, welcome to the video. I hope you're all doing well. Today's going to be a little bit different because I am going to be negative for a change and talk about some of the things that I don't enjoy about collecting vinyl records. And just before we kick off, I'd like to thank Nick's Vinyl Buddy for the idea to do this video. Now I know many other people have done videos like this, I've seen many videos of people talking about the same sort of things as I'm going to talk about, but I thought it would be worth just putting a video out for myself, just to talk about my own personal gripes, and for anyone else to let off a bit of steam as well. So, what I did is I thought up 13 things that I don't like about collecting vinyl records, and I put them where I put all my deepest, darkest fears, in this small notebook with a lenticular picture of turtles on the front of it. So I've got them all written here, and I think we should just kick off and go through them one by one. One last thing before we start, I would just like to say that this list does include certain types of vinyl record collectors, some of which you may identify with. Please don't take offence, this video is really just meant as a bit of fun, however, it's just the way I feel, and I'm allowed to have feelings. My therapist said so. Let's begin. Richie. Inconvenience is my first thing. Collecting records is not convenient. I've actually done a little bit of research here. I have here a CD version of the album Parallel Lines by Blondie, and if I just put this here for comparison with the vinyl record version, upon first glance you may think they look roughly the same size, but as you can see this one is considerably larger and therefore takes up much more space on shelves when collecting. I promise no camera trickery is going on, this is all unedited, no smoke and mirrors, and if I actually show you the medium itself, some of you will be shocked to see that it is quite large, something I've never said before. Now some of you may say, Ben, you have a relatively small collection, therefore it mustn't bother you as much as it bothers other people, and to that I say, yes. Moving on. Additionally, under Inconvenience, I'd like to talk about the faff. It's a very fiddly art, and as I'm sure you'll know if you collect vinyl records, it comes with a lot of problems which are often more trouble than they're worth to try and fix. For example, when I have a skip in a record, I'll often look up how to get rid of skips, only to find people saying, oh, well, all you need to do is add this $90 weight to the end of your needle. And I'll be honest, 3 seconds of music in one groove isn't really worth $90, I'd rather just listen to a skip. Either that or I'd take a toothpick to it and try and get it out that way. Now this is fine for people who have a lot of money, who are very, very dedicated to collecting vinyl records, who can just go out and buy all the stuff as and when they need it. But I can't do that, and therefore I am angry about it. Next thing I want to talk about is the price of collecting vinyl records. Now outside of the initial costs of getting storage units, of getting, you know, the amplifiers, the turntables, anything else you want to add onto it, some weights perhaps, the records themselves don't come cheap, particularly if they're from an era where records weren't too popular. For example, I have here a CD of the Kinks, Phobia, as I've talked about this album many times before. Now I would say for this CD I paid maybe $3.99. This was released in 1993, of course, when CDs were quite popular and vinyl was on its way out. So, if you wanted this on vinyl, you could be expected to pay as much as £500 for this. Now don't get me wrong, I enjoy vinyl more than I enjoy CD, so I'm willing to shed a little extra cash to enjoy it, especially if it's coloured vinyl, if it's got interesting inserts, things like that, but it is a bit pricey. The thing goes mail damage. Here I have a copy of Highway to Hell by AC/DC, and something you may realise is that the corner is slightly dented. Now this is about the third copy of this album that I've got, and it's the only one I've had that actually plays properly, so you know what, I'm willing to put up with this. However, I was very disappointed when I opened up the package and noticed that the corner was completely bent. Now this has improved slightly as it's been, you know, sort of pressed in with other records, but you know, it's not hard, just wrap it in cardboard, maybe a bit of bubble wrap, pop it in a van, pop it through my door, but, you know, not acceptable. Now I know obviously they don't do it on purpose and accidents will happen, I just get very angry when they happen to me.
Never let a man get his hands on your Reaver.
Skips is the next issue that I want to talk about, and I'm not talking about the extremely delicious prawn cocktail snacks. No, I'm talking about when the needle obviously will skip over a groove and you'll get a jump in the music. Now, often you can see the cause of the skip, sometimes it's a scratch, sometimes it's, you know, a little bit of dust or whatever. Some of these things can be ironed out. And of course it's natural for records to get damaged slightly if they're not taken perfect care of. But what annoys me, as is often the case with things that annoy me, is something that can't be helped. The sound of a skip. Now yes, it's annoying to have, you know, the vocals or the whatever it is jump forward 5 seconds or so, but what's more annoying is the sound that it makes, that huge sound, as it, you know, if you're singing along, if you're in the melody, if you're in the rhythm, it just completely ruins that for you. It rips your soul out and throws it on the floor, like a rug. Additionally, if anyone's ever had a situation where the vinyl has sort of, the needle skipped across the vinyl or a few grooves or something like that, and everyone's familiar with that, it's not a pleasant noise. In fact, I would put it up there with sort of nails on a blackboard, forks on a plate, children, that sort of level of annoyance. It's an extremely jarring noise and I don't like it.
To know death, Otto, you have to fuck life in the gallbladder.
Number 5 is how fragile records are. Now in this section I sort of feel compelled to say that I don't really think that vinyl is the best medium to listen to. I don't think any medium is the best. You know, everything has equal pros and cons. You know, I'm sure that a lot of CDs sound better than a lot of vinyl, but it's not as fun to have a tiny little thing as opposed to a big, great big thing, as I know. But it has to be said that it is the most fragile of all the mediums, and as someone who lives in a house with 3 cats, this can be quite an inconvenience. I still don't understand how the music happens, because if you spin a record and there's, you know, the needle isn't even switched on or anything, you can still hear the music and I don't understand it. Very clever. But when something the size of an amoeba landing on the vinyl can cause it to skip or can cause it to sound funny, that sort of tells me that maybe it's not the most reliable thing in the world.
Then why do you have to use such foul language if you're supposed to be so positive?
Because I'm fucking angry!
Now this is a kind of obscure one, but turntables, auto-lifting, and then, you know, when they actually drop themselves onto the vinyl. Sounds like a great feature until you get a record that's weirdly shaped so that when you press play and it lands, it's sort of halfway through the first song. And that's fine, you may say, you know, you can just put the needle on yourself. Of course you can. What you can't help with some turntables, including mine, sitting back there, feeling abused, is its auto-lift mechanism. When it reaches the dead wax, it will automatically lift off and move to the side. Now that's great if you fall asleep while an album's on, you know, it stops it sort of just going round and round and round wearing the needle away. But what it's not great for is when you have an album like Sgt. Pepper with a sort of dead wax in a groove thing going on, that sort of cuts off halfway through and you never get to listen to it again. And it particularly upsets me with that album because that inner groove area is actually my favourite portion of music on that album. Moving on.
The strong and stable leadership we need.
Number 7 is Record Store Day. Now, ignoring the whole price issue, which I've already talked about, it's the whole sort of ritual of Record Store Day. Often, a lot of the albums aren't worth reissuing. I'm just going to say it now. Although it has to be said, I do quite want Barbie Girl on bright pink neon vinyl. But then there's the whole, you know, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning just to get an album that you want. Now, that's dedication. It's also heartbreakingly sad. Don't get me wrong, there's been plenty of things that I've been very tempted to go and get. Not that tempted, though. Now, I follow my local record store on Twitter, and sometimes the day before Record Store Day, they'll post a picture of the people already sat outside at like 8 p.m. that night, you know. And everyone else is commenting, oh, isn't that sweet, you know, the dedication. And I'm just thinking, is everything okay at home? There's some records I really want, but I don't want anything that badly. The only way you'll get me out of bed at 4:30 in the morning, 3 things. Family death, it's snowing, or we're going to Alton Towers. That's it. Until then, leave me alone. Although that Kink Sleepwalker sort of black and white swirly thing was pretty good. Anyway. Spunk! Snobs. Now, I've had this before on a couple of my soundtrack videos. As you'll know, I post videos of my soundtracks. That's self-explanatory, I didn't really need to say that. And 99% of the comments are really wonderful people saying, oh, I love this film, or, yeah, great soundtrack, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But then I get the occasional one that says, you know, great records on a bad turntable equals cringe, or try this person, their sound quality's far better than yours. To which I want to put my arm round their shoulder and say, fuck off! I don't have the best equipment in the world, I don't have the best records in the world, but the sound quality is absolutely fine for me, and if it's not for you, then go and listen elsewhere. Additionally, that turntable was expensive, and going back to the faff thing, not everyone can afford fancy turntables. Additionally, audiophiles. It's a great talent to be able to tell the difference between an ultrasonic version of a remastered thing and the original, because I can't. But for them to go, oh, but you've got to get this version, in this version you can hear one hi-hat more. Not bothered. Really not bothered. Phil Collins is not going to be upset if I don't hear that. It's not a lot of effort, I'm sure he's not that fussed, honestly. Actually, I'm supposed to call him back.
You want to upgrade, and I said, so do you, to a new face.
Next thing I want to talk about is albums being in the wrong sleeves. Now, it's not a difficult thing to put an album back in the right sleeve when you're in a record store. For example, I bought this album about a year ago, Queen, News of the World, and yeah, famously opens with We Will Rock You. You know, you're waiting for that thing, the needle goes down, you're waiting for the drums to kick in. Except the first time I bought this, I didn't hear the drums kick in. What I heard was the opening of this album here, Sheer Heart Attack. Now, I can sort of get why these two got mixed up. This album is called Sheer Heart Attack. There's a song called Sheer Heart Attack on this album. You know, it can get confusing. Not to anyone older than 6. But I mean, seriously, how difficult? It says on the lid. Look, I'll show you. Again, look, it's big. It's big. I'm not changing this. Oh, I've lost my bit of paper. The label clearly says News of the World at the top there. Some of these people should be locked away.
Hi, I'm Jez. How's it angling?
Number 10, bonus tracks. Now again, it all falls down to money. People who buy vinyl generally splash out more money on the actual medium itself, which is why it's frustrating when suddenly the CDs are blessed with 4 extra tracks that are available nowhere else, and the people who buy the vinyl and shed out the money are left without them. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not too fussed about bonus tracks, I just like the album to be as the album is. However, a lot of the times the bonus tracks I find are actually just as good, if not better, than some of the songs on the album. The Darkness are a particular one for doing this. They'll always leave great songs off and then have some shit on. For example, they did a song called Messenger, and it's a brilliant, brilliant song. It was a song that was made around the time of the album Last of Our Kind. Now, I'm not saying that the songs on that album aren't good, of course they are, but Messenger is better than some of them. So one, why did they leave it off? Separate issue. But 2, why do the people who spend less get more songs? I know the costs would go up if you chucked in like a little EP of bonus tracks, but you know, I would gladly pay an extra £1 even, you know, on my vinyl if it meant that I would get some privileges. It's a bit like when there's 2 dogs in a room and you're only petting one, you know, that's the CD buyer, just, oh, he's such a good boy, and then the vinyl people are like, even though the CD buyer has just shat on the floor.
I hope you're not going to put your big stick in my mouth, Mr. Bow.
Number 11, liars. Now this goes, generally, I don't like people who lie. However, when I see a record on Discogs, for example, that says, you know, condition very good, medium very good, sleeve very good, all that stuff, very good is good enough for me. You know, I'm not a person who has to have mint stuff or original stuff or anything like that. It can be any copy of an album, I don't care where it's from, as long as the music is fine. So, very good is pretty appealing to me. But then when I get the album, and it's scuffed, and there's scratches on it, and there's marks on it, and there's coffee stains in the middle, and there's vomit in the gatefold, and there's semen on the label, that does grind me a little bit. Now most of the time I've had no trouble. Record collectors seem to understand each other in that, you know, I wouldn't want to receive a record that was substandard, so neither would you. Here you go, that's what it is. If it's bad, be honest. If it's good, there you go. But some people clearly just want to get money out of it, and these are the same people who will buy something from Record Store Day, whack it on eBay, and triple the price. I have had it a few times when I've emailed them back and I've politely said, excuse me, I recently purchased one of your records, and to my absolute disgust, it was slightly below standard. But what I actually want to do is I want to screenshot the condition, email it to them with the phrase,
bullshit. You're talking bullshit.
And that would make me feel better. Second to last one here, and these were in no particular order because they all make me equally angry, is Gatefolds. Now, I like Gatefolds, so number 13, not really. What annoys me is when a double album doesn't have a gatefold. It's a pretty simple thing, and the example I'm going to show is Tusk. Now, as anyone will know, this is the album that was released after Rumours. Fleetwood Mac released after Rumours, one of the best-selling albums of all time. They'll have been absolutely pissing money at this point. They had enough to make a double album with some pretty shit songs on it, so why couldn't they just make it a gatefold? Not only that your records are all crammed in here, apparently what they did is they had the money to have 2 inner sleeves! 4 inner sleeves and no gatefold equals a pretty tatty outer sleeve, as anyone will know. There's plenty of other albums that have done this, but I just picked this one because clearly Fleetwood Mac were rolling in money at this point and had literally no excuse.
China, 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 China.
And finally, number 13 is one that I don't have to explain. I'm just going to say this. You get your record, you put it in the inner sleeve, and there's a little hole in the bottom and your record sticks out. It's just annoying, isn't it? Anyway, I feel much better now. So yeah, I know I've had a slightly different approach to this video. I've been a bit sarcastic, but you know, I just felt like doing something a little bit different. So let me know what you think of, you know, the things I've said. If there's anything else that annoys you, I'm sure I've missed a few things off here, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you at some point in the future. I need to stop saying when, just in the future, obviously. Bye!